Hello everyone and welcome to our channel Biodiversity and Conservation by Ambika Prasad Research Foundation. So today we will talk about Orchids of Odisha part 19. So for our today's topic is we will talk about flower characters in orchid. So as we all know, orchid the flower is somewhat basically trimerous, pentacyclic and zygomorphic. Zygomorphic as in bilaterally symmetric and is enormous modification of the basic structure of the flower through reduction or conation of the various flower segments is common in orchidaceae. Flowers in orchid is probably have the highest morphological diversity and structural complexity among all the flowering plants. So it is basically the first part to know about the flower characters in orchid species. So, as we all know, that orchid flower has a diversified structure they have, and mostly they can be distinguished by three sepals and three petals, which is together known as the tepals, or you can say perianth. So, as you can see in this uh, slide, that first one is dorsal sepal, the upper one, then comes the petals, then come the anther, then stigma, then column, then lateral leaf and sepals, then leaf. So this is the mainly structure of the orchid flower. So basically the main characteristics is there will be 2p, 3s and 1l. L means lip and 3s means sepals. Then 2p means petals. So it is how it can be distinguished the orchid flower. So now we will talk about how to identify orchid flowers. So mainly I have told in earlier slide that all the flower can be distinguished by three sepals and two petals. So together it is known as a perianth, or you can say it is a main form, it is a main body of the orchid flower. Then one of the petals that are placed at the rear side, and it is modified in its shape, posture and color, so it is make it more noticeable one. So it is termed as a labellum or lip. So example you can say Vanda testata, Vanda testacea and Rancocidal stratusa, and many others orchids species are there that have a leaf modification in that. So sometimes the leaf is morely excessively modified, that you can say it has a pouch or a tubular structure called the spur. So for that the Habenaria species is the most prominent example of this spur modification of the orchid species. Then comes to the leaf. So leaf part has a very most prominent member of the perianth, as we all know, and it is highly specialized floral part of the flower and is extremely complex and variable. So sometimes it is broadly attached to the base of the column or over its entire length, rigid and therefore immobile. It may be attached to the tip of the column foot immovably or loosely hinged to it and is extremely mobile. So sometimes the lip is sessile. So for that the example you can say the geodarum in Oberenia is example of the sessile lip. Then comes to the short lip. Short lip has a Didymioplexis pallens. So this one has a short lip. Then comes to the long clawed lip. So long clawed lip has a Dendrobium peguenum. So this particular has a very different structure or a very different leaf structure. So for that you can identify this particular species. So for identification you have to look through it the whole flowery structure like the leaf, the sepals, the petals, and more evenly the color formation. So sometimes you can see the Arids multiflora and Rhynchostylus retusa. In distance, if you will see with your naked eyes, you will prominently will say that this is the foxtail orchid. But in clearly, or you can closely, if you see that from the flower structure and the flower pattern of the leaf, it has a very difference from one another. So for that confusion, you have to first go through the flower structure in close up, so that you will not get confused over the color. So mostly many species like that, they have a pink like color. So some of the researchers, they assume that they may be the foxtail orchid, but in reality some of them must be the Aerids multiflora, because sometimes the flowering stages of these two particular species, two particular orchid species, they have a very similarity, or you can say very close to one another. So this is how you can identify the orchid flower. Then comes to our different shapes of orchid flowers. So from the flower of means from the shape of the flower, you can also distinguish the particular orchid flower. So as you can say, I can say some of the difference. So as in dendrobium, as we have all know, the dendrobium species, the main characteristics is their means branch, or you can say the stem like structure. So for that you can distinguish the dendrobium species from the other species. And the bulbophyllum, the bulbous part, the pseudobulbous part, from that you can also distinguish. So these are some of the orchid species that you can distinguish without a flower, but you cannot tell about their species. So you can tell tell that it is a genus from the Dendrobium or Bulbophyllum, but you can tell the species because the flowering was not there. So for that, we have to, for the flower when it is come, flower also have a very different type of stages. Like some flowers are very large and some flowers are only large, means some particular centimeter, or you can say particular it has a structure is there. Then some are small and some are very miniature one, and some has a tubular one. So in our next slide I will show you about the flower different shapes in orchid flower. So first, flowers are very large. So the main characteristics of this is that those flower which are very large, it has flower facing down one. So example you can say Fias tankervilli. So this one, the flower is facing down. So for that you can assume that this flower is a very large one. So this is the one characteristics. Then comes the sepals and petals well spreading. So you can see in this picture the Dendrobium formosum. So you can distinguishly, or you can from distance also, you can also distinguish that it has a very prominent, or you can say well spreading sepals and petals is there. Then come the leaf trumpet shaped. So leaf trumpet shaped, as you can see in this picture, Dendrobium dagium. So you can also notice the lip part. So lip part is very much different from other species. Then comes the lip margin folded inside. So the margin one of the lip portion, it is folded inside. For that, the best example is Dendrobium moschatum. Then comes the sepals and petals with rounded apices. Phili, pure, phili, Phililionanthe teres. Then comes the perianth, very unequal in size, that is Pectilis gigantea. So these are the particular mean flowers that are very large in shape. That comes to our flowers are large. So in our earlier slide I have told about flowers are very large. Now comes to our less in size than the earlier one. So flowers are only large. So in that the main characteristics is sepals and petals strongly curled. So as in you can say Vanda tessellata. As if you have seen in forest then Vanda tessellata, so you can see that the leaf part is the most prominent one because it has a very color difference in that. So for that, and the lip portion is also is strongly curled. So for that you can identify it. Then comes the sepals and petals oblong lanceolate. So as you can see in this picture, Cymbidium aloifolium is the best example of this. Then comes the lateral sepal at base form a large chain, Eulophium spectabilis. So Eulophia spectabilis, they has a lateral sepal at the base, means sepal will be at the base as a form of a large chain. So these are one of the characteristics of the flowers that are large. Then comes the claw of leaf connate with column foot to form a blunt spur. As I have also told in our earlier slide, the spur is also one of type of the modification of the petals, or you can say the leaf. So example is Tinea hookerania. Then comes to our next slide. Then comes to our flowers of medium size. So they are not in very large or not so large. So for that some flowers are also in a medium size. So for that the characteristics will be flowers nodding thin. So as you can say Nervilia gamiana. So Nervilia gamiana, it is the example that flowers are nodded to it and it is thin. Then comes to our sepals and petals strongly reflexed. So for that the best example would be Cotonia pendicularis. Then comes to the lateral sepals much oblong, oblique and reflexed. So for that you can say it has a basic characteristics, or you can say the very prominent modification of the leaf, flower, leaf, sepals, petals and the spur part is, that is Hebereria commelinifolia. So you will mostly see this orchid at the rice field areas. Then comes to our leaf largest among the Perian with a dome-like outline, that is Habenaria plantigenia. So Habenaria plantigenia, so for that the leaf has the largest among the Perian and it has a very prominent, or you can say very noticeable like outlines is there. Then comes the segments of the Perianth filiform. So for that, Habenaria panigrahina is the best example on this. Then comes the inflated spur of the leaf forming most of the flower body, that is Aerids odorata. You can also see that some flower is all mainly be characterized by their structure or shape, but some are also there that they can be characterized by their odor, as you can say the smells of that particular orchid. So Aerids odorata is also one of them. Then comes to the spur looking as the raised trunk of an elephant, Aerids maculosa. So if you have seen Aerids maculosa, you can also say that the spur part, as you can say the spur structure, it is raised as a trunk of an elephant, meaning it is seems like that. So for that you can also identify this particular species that have a medium shape in size. Then comes to our fairy flowers are small in size. So for that, Perianth never opening means in Odisha Clistantha is an example of that. So in that I have till now I have not also seen that Perianth will be open. I have seen only closed form. So then comes to our perianth, fleshy and thick marked with horizontal bands. That is the best example would be Acampa carinata. As you can also see this in picture. So it has very small in size. Then comes to our sepals shortly hairy outside. That is area bambusifolia. So then comes to our lateral sepals borne on a long slender chin, that is Dendrobium peguenum. So as you can see this in picture, it has a very prominent type of flower structure. So for that you can also identify this particular species. Then comes to our petals erect and close to column, that is Eulophia graminea. So Eulophia graminea, for that the petals will be erect and it is very close to the column part. Then comes to our petals uh, suppressed on dorsal sepal, that is Guderia fumata. Then comes to our flowers are very small or minute. So for that you can see the main characteristics will be the flowers and sepals reflexed, rolled back on their longer margin. So example you can say Liparis odorata, Crepidium purpureum, so Sedinifia versicolor. So these are the example of this. Then comes the lip superior, margin is tooth. So as you can in this see in this picture, the lip part is a superior one. Then it is a margin, as you can see it has a tooth like shape. Then for that the example will be Oberenia macaronata. Then comes to the sepal fused forming an inflamed jug, Acantha philippium bicolor. So it has a very minute in shape, so you have to first go through it. So because Acantha philippium bicolor, it has a bulbous like structure. So for that the flower structure you can say a minute or a very small in size. Then comes to our sepals fused partly with very long filiform apexes, such as example will be Mastigian appendiculatum. Then comes to our sepals and petals fused at base, that is Didymyoplexis pellens. So these are the some of the examples with their characteristics feature to identify the flowers that are very small or minute in size. So then comes to our flowers that are tubular in size. So as you can see, it has a wide spreading. You can see, and the best example, or you can say the only example I get to know that Spiranthes sinensis. So this particular orchid is used to be seen in Odisha in some part of the area, but due to urbanization, due to habitat clearance and other factors, it is now in very less in population you can see in any part of the India, or you can say Odisha, but it has a very unique type of the flower structure. So you can also identify this particular orchid through their tubular structure. Then from the other factor, we can also identify by various shape of the spur. So due to different variation in spur, so you can also identify the particular species such as shaped like globose. So shaped like globose is peristylus constrictus. So it has also as per field survey I get to know that peristylus constrictus, it has a very good odor, or you can say very perfume like a smell. So it can also attract many type of pollinator. Then comes to our shaped like conical. So shaped like conical example would be Stereochilus ramsus. Then comes the shaped like clavet. Mean the spur will be shaped like a clavet, that is Habenaria digitata. Then comes shape of the spur like straight or bent, that is Scolobiopsis, that Ornithochilus. These are the some of the genus. So for the species you have to go through it. Then comes the strongly curved forward spur will be there. So that is Uncifera. Then comes our spur is shallow, that is Chilochista geodorum are the example of this particular spur shallow type. Then comes to the deep basin or jug shaped, that is Gastrochilus or Pomatocarpa, etc. So these are the genus where you can identify the particular type of spur, that is deep basin or jug shaped. Then comes to our long tube-like as in many. So that is Calanthe and Habenaria. So they have a very, the spur will be a tube-like and it has a many in number. Then comes to our short as 2 mm and hidden by the lateral sepal. So for that, that will be Peristylus lovely. So these are the some of the variously shaped of the spur that you can identify or distinguish within other plant species. So for that you can identify the flower characters of orchid species. So these are the some of the characteristics feature. Then you can also identify by the leaf structure. So I have not mentioned it over here, but in our upcoming video, I will surely talk about the leaf structure, or you can how to identify by their leaf. So I have also told earlier that every part of the orchid flower has a very distinguished type of shape, color and size. So for that you have to first go through it and get to know about how the orchid can be characteristics. So these are some of the examples with their characteristics features that you can know about their get to know about the orchid flower. So thank you for watching. Hope you will like this video and keep subscribing to our channel, and don't forget to click the bell icon so you can get to know our upcoming videos. Thank you.